We know him as the face of unwavering resolve, the stoic general, the father of a nation etched in marble and memory. George Washington, Mount Rushmore staring, dollar bill gazing, an icon of unblemished strength. His legend is as solid as the granite cliffs he now inhabits. Yet for generations, a curious, almost folksy detail has clung to his monumental image, the myth of his wooden teeth. It's a tale told with a chuckle, a humanizing quirk for an otherwise unreachable demigod. But what if this widespread belief, while utterly false, actually obscured a far more visceral, horrifying truth? What if the reality of Washington's dental misery was not just uncomfortable, but a grotesque, agonizing saga that profoundly shaped the man, the leader, and the legend? Forget the charming, rustic image of wood. That's a gentle lie, a historical whisper softened by time. The truth is far more unsettling, a testament to 18th-century medicine's crude brutality and one man's relentless suffering. His dentures were not carved from oak or pine. They were a ghastly assemblage of what could be scavenged and forced into service. Human teeth, often purchased from enslaved people or perhaps even from battlefields. Animal teeth, specifically cow, horse, and the formidable ivory of hippopotamus and elephant. These organic materials were then cemented and screwed into base plates of lead, held together by brass and steel springs, a contraption of agony designed to mimic the natural function of a mouth. Imagine the sheer weight, the cold metallic taste, the constant pressure of such a device grinding against inflamed gums. This wasn't just discomfort, it was a daily, hourly torment. To understand Washington, the man who would become legend, we must first understand the crucible of his early life, not just the grand narratives of war and presidency. He was not born into hardship in the manner of a peasant, but into the structured, demanding world of a Virginia planter, a world of land, duty, and relentless self-improvement. The expectations were immense, the pressures inherent in maintaining a burgeoning estate and a growing reputation. Yet beneath the veneer of this ordered existence, a slow, insidious torment began to fester in his youth, a private agony that would define his physical reality for the rest of his days. His descent into dental misery began astonishingly early, not in the twilight of his years, but in the vibrant vigor of his young manhood at the tender age of 24. This wasn't a sudden, cataclysmic event, but a creeping decay, a betrayal of his own body that stripped him, tooth by tooth, of a fundamental human comfort. From that point onward, Washington's life became a relentless battle against dental pain. His personal diaries and countless letters are littered with desperate references. Aching teeth, lost teeth, inflamed gums, ill-fitting dentures that chafed and tore at his mouth. By the time he stood to take the oath of office as the first president of the United States at age 57, he possessed only one solitary natural tooth, a lonely sentinel amidst a landscape of artificiality and chronic pain. This wasn't a fleeting ailment, it was a constant, gnawing companion, a pervasive throb beneath the surface of every smile, every command, every moment of quiet contemplation. It was a private Gethsemane of the mouth, a hidden trial that the future leader had to navigate every single day. One might imagine Washington as a kind of American Hercules, tasked with impossible labors, yet his most enduring struggle was not against Hydra or Nemean lion, but against the relentless internal enemy of his own decaying body. The myth tells us of a man of iron will, unyielding and unbreakable. This is true, but that will was forged not just in battle, but in the silent, grinding agony of his mouth. The constant pain, the disfigurement caused by his ill-fitting, cumbersome dentures, became a secret burden that shaped his public persona in profound ways. His lips, pushed outwards by the bulk of the contrivance, often created a strained, uncomfortable expression, one that many contemporary portraits subtly capture. This physical discomfort made speech difficult, turning what should have been a natural act into a painful, deliberate effort. It is believed that this very agony contributed to his decision to forego giving his second inaugural address, a moment of profound national importance. How could a man racked by such continuous pain deliver a lengthy, eloquent address to a waiting nation? The stoicism we admire in Washington, that almost otherworldly composure, might well have been a coping mechanism, a necessary shield against the private torment that threatened to overwhelm him. He learned to project an image of unshakable calm, perhaps because any other expression would betray the constant, throbbing pain beneath. This silent endurance, this refusal to let physical suffering break his public facade, transformed him. The decay of his natural self, the slow obliteration of his original teeth, became a symbolic counterpoint to the perceived indestructibility of his public image. His private suffering became a crucible, refining his capacity for resilience, making him a symbol of perseverance, even if the source of that perseverance was a secret, horrifying dental war. He became a man who could lead a nation through its birth pangs precisely because he had mastered the art of enduring his own. The widespread belief in wooden teeth likely arose from a simple yet telling observation. The ivory and bone used in his dentures over time would not only become stained and discolored, particularly from dark beverages like Madeira wine, but would also develop hairline fractures. These natural processes would imbue the materials with a grainy, wood-like appearance, a visual deception that led generations astray. Yet even this small detail is symbolically potent. Wood with its organic warmth suggests a connection to nature, a rustic simplicity. The reality of ivory and human teeth stained and cracking speaks to something far more visceral, a corruption and compromise of the natural order. It highlights the desperate lengths to which 18th-century individuals, even those of immense wealth and power, had to go to maintain a semblance of normalcy. For Washington, this meant enduring a daily silent battle against a grotesque, uncomfortable, and ultimately deeply dehumanizing apparatus. It wasn't just about eating or speaking. It was about maintaining dignity in the face of perpetual physical assault. This constant, unyielding personal war, fought in the privacy of his own mouth, forged a particular kind of strength within him. It was a strength born not of privilege or power, but of sheer, grinding endurance. He learned to live with an internal agony that would have broken lesser men, and in doing so, he transformed himself into the unyielding figure history remembers. His pain became his crucible, his silent companion, shaping the very core of his being, turning him into a symbol of stoicism in the face of relentless adversity. That unyielding figure, etched into the collective consciousness, is often perceived as an innate quality, a natural gift of leadership bestowed upon a chosen few. But the truth, as it often is far more complex, more visceral. George Washington's renowned stoicism, his iron will, his almost superhuman endurance in the face of impossible odds wasn't a birthright, it was forged. Forged in the fires of constant, excruciating pain, a private battle waged day in and day out, hidden behind a tightly controlled facade and a mouth full of horrors. His early life, though not without its challenges, certainly wasn't marked by this particular torment. Born into the gentry of colonial Virginia, Washington spent his youth cultivating the image of a robust, athletic young man. He was a skilled horseman, a diligent surveyor, a man accustomed to the physical rigors of the frontier. There was a certain innocence, perhaps even a youthful arrogance, in his expectations of his own body. He anticipated strength, resilience, and the natural progression of a healthy life, much like the fertile lands he surveyed. The world, as he saw it then, was a place to be conquered with physical prowess and unflagging energy. His body was his instrument, a tool for ambition and advancement. The specific event, or rather the insidious, relentless asterisk process that shattered this illusion, was the slow, agonizing decay of his teeth. It wasn't a sudden injury, but a creeping blight, a betrayal from within. The first signs were likely subtle discomfort giving way to persistent ache, then to throbbing agony. He began losing teeth in his early 20s, an alarming rate for a man so young. By the time he was inaugurated as president at 57, he had only one natural tooth remaining. This wasn't merely cosmetic, it was a devastating internal war. Each extraction was a violent act, performed without adequate anesthesia, leaving behind not relief but often infection, inflammation, and further weakening of the surrounding bone. His mouth became a battlefield, perpetually scarred, perpetually in conflict. Consider the myth of Philoctetes, the Greek hero abandoned by the Achaeans on the island of Lemnos. He possessed Hercules' bow, vital for the Trojan War, but also suffered from a festering, odorous wound on his foot, a bite from a serpent that made him unbearable company. His agony was hidden, his cries of pain isolated, yet his unique, suffering presence was indispensable for victory. Symbolically, Washington's mouth became his Lemnos, a secret island of festering pain, hidden from public view, yet central to his eventual, indispensable role in the birth of a nation. His wound wasn't just physical, it became a deep, personal humiliation, a source of constant discomfort that he had to learn to manage, to master, to conceal. The endless putrid ache, the constant pressure, the difficulty of eating or speaking naturally, these were the serpent's bite, making him in a deeply personal sense unbearable to himself, yet forging within him the very tools that would make him essential. His ability to endure this private hell, to project an image of calm authority despite the internal siege, became his own version of Philoctetes' unerring bow, a weapon of unparalleled resilience that he wielded with quiet, determined mastery. The horrors continued. His early dentures, far from providing relief, only compounded the misery. They were clumsy contraptions made by various artisans from a grotesque array of materials. Carved hippopotamus ivory, human teeth extracted from the poorer deceased, even animal teeth filed down and fitted. These weren't the smoothly molded prosthetics of today. They were heavy, ill-fitting, and often caused excruciating pressure sores and inflammation in his gums. The constant rubbing led to raw, bleeding tissue, making every bite, every word, a fresh torment. Imagine the taste of stale ivory, the smell of decaying organic matter, the relentless pressure on nerves already frayed from years of extractions. His mouth was a perpetual wound, never truly healing, always irritated, always battling infection. His famous tight-lipped expression wasn't a sign of aloofness. It was often a desperate attempt to keep the dentures in place, to hide the agony, to prevent them from clicking or slipping mid-sentence. It brings to mind the myth of Sisyphus, cursed to eternally roll a boulder uphill, only for it to roll back down each time he neared the summit. A futile, endless, back-breaking task. Washington's dental struggles were his personal Sisyphus. Each new set of dentures was a desperate attempt to roll the boulder of his pain to the top, to achieve some semblance of normal function. Yet with each attempt, the materials would chafe, the gums would swell, the fit would fail, and the boulder would roll back down, leaving him once more in the valley of agony. This relentless cyclical torment taught him a profound, almost terrifying patience. He couldn't escape it. He couldn't wish it away. He had to live with it, to adapt to its rhythm, to find a way to function despite its constant presence. This wasn't merely resilience. It was a forced immersion in the art of enduring the unendurable. He learned that some battles are never truly won, only managed, only survived. This constant grinding effort to simply be taught him a level of mental fortitude that few could ever comprehend. The psychological toll was immense. This wasn't merely physical pain. It was a constant, humiliating assault on his dignity, his appearance, his ability to communicate freely. For a public figure, a military leader, a statesman, the inability to speak without discomfort, to smile without revealing grotesque prosthetics was a profound handicap. It forced him inward. It cultivated the quiet, reserved demeanor that became his hallmark. His famous stoicism, his ability to remain impassive under pressure, was not just a personality trait. It was a highly developed coping mechanism honed over decades of internal suffering. He learned to compartmentalize agony, to project an image of unshakable calm, even as his mouth throbbed, his gums bled, and his body waged a silent war against itself. The pain became a filter, constant companion that shaped his every interaction, teaching him self-control beyond measure. He mastered the art of concealing his true feelings, not out of duplicity, but out of sheer necessity. And then a transformation. It wasn't a cure. Medicine in his time offered none. It was a profound shift in perspective. At some point, after decades of fighting, of trying to escape, of seeking temporary fixes that only brought further disappointment, George Washington stopped viewing his dental agony as an external enemy to be vanquished. He stopped raging against it. He stopped seeing it as a weakness, a flaw, a personal failing. Instead, he began to integrate it. He accepted that this relentless pain, this constant discomfort, was not something that would ever truly leave him. It was a part of him, an inescapable facet of his existence. This wasn't resignation. It was a radical act of acceptance. He realized that the very act of enduring, of continuing to lead, to fight, to preside despite this internal siege, had not broken him but refined him. It had stripped away any superficiality, any frivolousness, leaving behind a core of pure, unyielding will. His pain became his crucible, a private forge where the raw material of his ambition and intellect was hammered into an unbreakable spirit. He understood that his greatest vulnerability had paradoxically become the source of his unique strength. He no longer sought to conquer the pain but to transcend it, to use its constant presence as a reminder of his own capacity for endurance. The constant ache, the ill-fitting dentures, the difficulty of eating, these became not obstacles but ingrained instructors, teaching him patience, resilience, and an unwavering focus that few men could ever hope to attain. This was his breakthrough. He became not a man without pain, but a man defined by his mastery over it, transforming his deepest, most private suffering into the foundational stone of his legendary fortitude.